One. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Eldon, and with me is Dalton Grimes, and we have got a special treat for all of you today, don't we, Dalton?
Yeah, you bet. So, David, I heard you spent the weekend doing side events at.
Oh, we're not going to do the pun where I was regular all weekend.
No, I was gonna ask how was your weekend?
Yeah, well, it was a regular
Was it?
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were very regular that weekend due to the fact that I was on side events all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and just a normal regular REL weekend for me today. And so that's what we're talking about today. By the way, everybody, is we are going to be talking about judging at regular REL, and this is an important topic. This is very important due to the fact that the last one I heard, I think, was 90%. 90% of judging happens at regular REL. So that is an important thing to know about if you're a judge, right? So
Yeah. So a lot of times, you might find David and us at competitive events. You'll see us at Grand Prix or SCG Opens or a whole variety of different events across the country. But the majority of magic you'll find happens at the store or with your friends or even at large events. Any of the side events you play in are all going to be regular rules enforcement level.
Yeah, and if you play regular REL, then we will definitely talk to you. If you subscribe, we'll definitely talk to you too. We already have one mystery subscriber already on our channel, so that's exciting. But don't worry, we'll talk to you in the chat anyway. Hope everyone is having an awesome time out there in chat land. So yeah, regular REL is our topic today. What is everyone's favorite regular REL type of tournament? And there's a lot of them actually. I was going through, I did some research beforehand, and it turns out there's a lot of different tournament types. What is your favorite regular REL tournament, Dalton?
Regular REL tournament.
Yes.
I call me a sucker, but I gotta go with pre-releases. They're just my favorite.
That is a popular one.
Getting my hands on the new set is
that is a popular one. Mine is F&M. For my personal answer there, it is F&M. Some people may not know this about me, but I in fact I go to F&Ms every week. I love F&M, and I have a nearly decade-long unbroken string of every F&M promo. So yeah.
From attendance or from?
No. Okay, so let me tell you about back in the day, right? So I don't remember when they changed it. It was a few years ago that they changed this about the F&M promos, but it used to be that each store got 4. Every week there were 4 F&M promos, and 2 of them were for first and second place, and 2 of them were random. Right, and that was the only way you could get an F&M promo. And Wizards like were, or who are the store guys, whoever takes care of those and like make sure people aren't breaking the street date. Those same people were making sure that people didn't give their F&M promos out in a different way. So that was it. There was 4. There was 4 a week, first, second, and 2 randoms, and that was what you got. So there was a time when that was like a lot more real of an accomplishment. So like nowadays I can go into a month and be like, oh, this, opt is pretty sweet. I want to get 4 ops, and like I can basically count on getting 4 ops just by like playing F&M every week. Those days it was not the case. That was very much not the case.
You'd have had to been a really good player.
So it was me and my brother cooperating together and sharing a collection. So it's not. I'm not going to take 100% of the credit, but yeah, I do have every F&M promo. I think going back more than a decade now. The last time I checked.
Sweet.
So yeah, that is my favorite F&M. Cube drafts. Cube draft is another really good one. I definitely like that. Although it's a kind of interesting one because like there's not a lot of cube drafts that are sanctioned, right? No. Like a lot of them would be at like casual, which is actually one step even below judging at regular REL. But that's another thing that definitely like stores run for funsies. And
fun fact, I've never done a cube draft.
Really? Have you not even like a Moto one?
No.
Okay, so the Moto ones are really excellent. Cube in real life has a lot of really annoying stuff that you have to do, kind of. Like shuffling all the stuff together and making the packs, which is terrible. But if you are playing on Moto, it does all that for you.
Exactly.
So that's pretty great. All right. So, their store does weekly standard cube over there. Now that
Sweet
that seems like that would be a very interesting thing to do. So I would definitely try that out if we had it every week.
So David,
Yes.
I think we've talked enough about playing.
Oh, are you giving me a slow play? Are you giving me a warning for slow play?
I'm gonna talk to you about some generally unwanted behavior.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not the best place to start.
Well, yeah.
So, what is the difference between judging it regular, or which is abbreviated as JAR, judging it regular?
Yeah, actually, that's a
versus-
document. That's a specific thing.
Yes, it is. Versus judging it competitive.
All right.
What would you say some of the, not even from the books or the policy, but what do you feel like? What's the difference to you?
All right. So for me, the biggest thing is that the atmosphere is different, and so like as one of the biggest differences, like in general, between judging it regular and judging it competitive rel, is that when you are at competitive rel, everything's very standardized, right? Like there's like a 50-page document that says what you're supposed to do in case someone breaks the rules. In regular rel, there is a 2-page document that gives you some guidelines and basically tells you to use your best judgment.
Yep.
So that is, in my opinion, as a judge, the biggest difference between regular rel and competitive rel, just from like a feel standpoint. Judging at regular rel is a lot more about making sure the players are having fun, making sure that the stuff you're doing makes sense, whereas judging at competitive rel is a lot more about making sure that if I do something wrong in one tournament in one part of the world, I'm going to get treated exactly the same way as a player who does the same thing wrong at another tournament in another part of the world. So it's much more standardized, and you have much less leeway to do stuff that makes sense to you in spots where you don't believe that what the policy is telling you to do makes sense. Sure. And so yeah, that's what I would think would be the biggest. Is that the same answer you?
Yeah, I would definitely just say that at a regular event, something that you're going to find in your own store, it's a lot easier to personalize it.
Yes.
You know the players. They come every week and you know them by name. It's a lot more friendly, and that's okay. You may know that your friend has trouble with missed triggers, and maybe you're going to have to help them out. So giving them that reminder, being there to help out is great. Writing penalties sucks, like when you have to give a player a game loss because one of the cards in their sideboard was wrong, like it feels bad. We have to do it. It's part of the rules and
definitely
part of the tournament.
Did that last week.
But it's one of those things that, you have no reason to believe that the player was cheating, but because of the way that the rules say, which I'm not arguing with, like it's important to make sure that that's all taken care of. But it seems like one of those unfortunate things that at regular that doesn't exist. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You should still watch out for
cheating. If you're giving someone a game loss at regular rel, they deserve it.
Yes.
Like they really deserve it, because it's actually very difficult to get a game loss at regular rel.
Yeah, so judging at regular is pretty much split up into 3 different categories. You have your common issues. These include things like missed triggers, or accidentally seeing cards you shouldn't, or maybe accidentally drawing extra cards in some way, shape, or form, or just basic problems associated with the game. You then move up to generally unwanted behaviors. This is something more akin to slow play, or shuffling in a way that could be suspicious, or not shuffling enough, or just being late or cumbersome to your event. And then you move on to serious problems. And these are what you would imagine to be very problematic at an event. These are things like aggressive behavior, or bribery, wagering, rolling dice to determine outcomes. This could be cheating or theft. And those are the only things that you have policy written to take care of.
Yeah.
Everything else is more or less, as David mentioned, at your discretion. It's based upon your judgment as a judge.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a look. When we have a regular rel tournament, there's different atmosphere also, I suppose. That's in my opinion the other really big difference, right? So at competitive rel, you can do you can do a lot of stuff in a competitive way because everything's so standardized. A regular REL, there's kind of if you ever played like an online game and you've played like the 10-minute no rush kind of a thing, that's basically kind of the idea behind regular REL. It's kind of like the 10-minute no rush type of mentality. And so with that being the case, it's a lot easier. So yeah, what do you think? You want to just like go through all the different common issues and stuff, because the common issues is like kind of important. Okay.
Yeah, these are going to be the majority. I'd say at least 90% of what you're going to experience at regular.
And if you go to competitive, this is the same too. Like I'd say if you like if you waved a magic wand and all these errors went away, probably like 90% of judge calls would go away too.
Yeah, and a lot of this is just events that are run at regular rules enforcement level tend to draw in. You find more players, like Dave mentioned, 90% at regular events. This is because it tends to provide a less competitive, a more friendly, a more welcoming environment than a large-scale tournament. Some players may be intimidated, or they may feel they're not good enough at Magic. So you find a lot happens at regular. And because of this, you'll get players who are still learning the game, or maybe there's a lot going on, or maybe they're trying out a new deck that they might want to be running at their next event, and you'll find problems. So the first one is missed triggers.
Yeah.
We have rules for this in the infraction procedure guideline. Well, that doesn't apply at regular.
Thank goodness.
You still have the same basic idea as you do have the same basic problems, but you don't have to award warnings. There's no infraction. It's just taking care of the issue. So Dark Confidant, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost.
Yep.
At competitive, you're going to run through whether or not your opponent wants to allow it, whether or not that's going to happen at this moment. At regular rules enforcement level, we just look and we say, okay, would putting this on the stack now be too problematic for the game state? If I were to put this on the stack now, is it going to have a significant impact upon the game? If it's not that crazy, say we just move to the main phase, we draw for turn, and they say, oh, wait, I forgot to do Dark Confidant, that's a really easy fix. We can just do that. We can take care of it right now. Something that's, if we're 3 turns down the road and we say, oh, rats, I forgot my Dark Confidant when it was on the field, because that's too late. And that's okay to just say, we're too far past that, we'll move on.
Yeah. Here's another example, would be a card like, for example, Standstill. Counter that spell and draw 3 cards randomly. So like if we forget about the Standstill trigger...
You don't counter the spell.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, you don't. That's the other card. There's some Lunar Force. Is that what it was? Yeah, Lunar Force is there's a card that does something like that too. But yeah, you just sacrifice the Standstill.
Yeah. So as soon as you realize that that's an issue, you say, okay, would taking care of this now be too problematic?
That's what it was. It was Lunar Force.
There you go. If the answer is no, go ahead and take care of it. Remind the players to play a little more carefully, because the game will flow a lot more smooth if they take care of the triggers at the time, but it's not going to be too crazy. If there's something like, they were supposed to have a Goblin Rabblemaster token, and now all of a sudden combat math is different and I would have blocked differently.
Yeah.
That's one of those points where you might say, okay, maybe this is going to be too problematic. Maybe the player made all these decisions, they cast some spells, they pumped their creatures, they got rid of others to put themselves at 1 to win the next turn. Now all of a sudden there's this unaccounted for attacker.
Yeah.
That's a little much. And it's okay to say, hey players, I think that with the information that's been given, by the fact that you've revealed cards in your hand, you've cast spells, you've made all these decisions.
Those are some reasons why you might be in favor of declining the trigger ability.
Yeah.
We got a question from the chat here. How does suspend work at regular REL? Do you still ask the opponent? So suspend, removing the suspend counters is also a triggered ability. So the thing that lets you remove the suspend counters is a triggered ability. So just like what Dalton was saying, sometimes playing a suspend card, like for example, if it's the middle of combat and we remove the suspend counter, that was supposed to come off last turn. Now we've got like a surprise ambush blocker that we didn't have before when the guy was declaring attackers. So obviously, then we would probably say no. That's not something we're going to give you. You have to wait until your next turn.
Yeah.
But if it's, for example, like I declared all my attackers and it's like, oh yeah, I have this Rift Bolt here, and it's like before they blocked. Then I wouldn't have a problem giving it to them because like, hey, it's, they would have had that beforehand anyway. There's no problem with someone making decisions that they probably wouldn't have made. So yeah, that's the reasoning that you would be using to decide what happens.
Yeah, and if it's something like Ancestral Vision, where say you're on counter 4 and you forgot to take off the first time counter on the thing. Like if you're in combat and you notice that you forgot that one, but it's still 3 turns from you drawing cards, that's fine. I would have no issue with that. It's when you get something like a Greater Gargadon where all of a sudden you could sacrifice things and have this blocker. That one specifically is a little more problematic because of that ability to ambush, as David put it, with the creature. But if it's something like, if there's no way for them to accelerate it or no way for them to take advantage of the amount of time counters, I would let them take that off just about every time.
Yeah, Ether Vial is kind of a tougher one, right? Because let's say we have the Ether Vial, right? And Ether Vial lets you tap to put a creature into play. If you are deciding whether you should go one higher or whether you should stay at the same amount of counters, you don't know what card you're going to draw for your turn when you're trying to make that decision. So with Ether Vial, it's kind of a grayer area, right? So this is one where you might consider doing the competitive REL fix of just like asking your opponent, okay, what do you think? Would you like to give it to him right now, or would you like to say it's missed? That way, it's fair for both players, and you're being sure that it's fair for both players. But yeah, like if you forget to take up with the Ether Vial, that could potentially be like a significant game-changing kind of a thing, because being able to flash a Thalia's Lieutenant into play versus not is quite a big deal. And you might not know whether you should leave it at 2 so you can flash in a Thalia's Lieutenant that you draw, or maybe you want to uptick it to 3 in case you draw a Manus Rider, or you have a Reflector Mage in your hand. There's all kinds of different variables that would go into your Ether Vial decision making. So I would probably say in a case like that, if someone like calls me up in a regular REL tournament and says, hey, I forgot to uptick my Ether Vial, can I put the counter on now? I would ask the opponent what they think. And I would go based on that. And so that's a really important aspect of these, by the way, is that you notice that the thing that we're saying to do is like varying based on different circumstances. And that's exactly what regular REL is supposed to be. Like judging at regular REL is very much based on like, okay, in this situation, I think that like the best way to do it would be like this. In this situation, maybe you would do something differently. If someone has like this card in play, then that might affect what my answer is. All that stuff is stuff you're not taking into account when you're doing competitive REL, because competitive REL, the focus is on not having personal judgment be in it as much as possible and having it be as standardized as possible.
Yeah, even with Aether Vial, that's one of those where you'll find differences. Like if they forgot to move the Aether Vial from 0 to 1, I'm probably going to have no issue with that. Because what are they going to do with 0? Flash in a Memnite? Like, especially if they're playing something like Humans where there are no 0 drops in the deck. Like, that one's not...
Yeah,
like of course they wanted to take it up to 1.
But yeah, if it's Humans and they're going from like 2 to 3, that's like a very, very like important game decision. Like it is not 100% of the time right to make either one of those calls.
Yeah, and so the big thing is it's okay to look at the game state.
All right, interesting question from the chat. Are calls harder at regular REL? So that is an interesting question, and it kind of depends on what you mean by harder. Like there's more flexibility, which means that there's more like decision making that you have to do. In competitive REL, it's like you know what the policy says, you do what the policy says, right? So that's like pretty straightforward. Whereas in regular REL, we're talking about how there's all this like, well, if they have this, then you want to do it this way, but you want to consider this possibility. So there is more decision making. You have to actually like put more thought into what you want to do. But at the same time, all of that decision making is focused around one thing, which is like, what should I be doing to get the players back as close as we can to what the actual game state would have looked like. So if you have that one guiding principle in mind about like what you should be doing to fix stuff, then you're pretty much golden throughout all of it. And the other thing is, as long as what you do makes sense, then it's not really wrong. Whereas in a competitive REL tournament, there's definitely times when you can do something that makes sense, but it turns out you like applied the policy incorrectly, or you like went against the philosophy that underlies what the policy was supposed to do. So that's kind of the flip side of all of that, decision making that you have to make, is that as long as your decision that you made was a valid decision, then you're going to be good.
Yeah, if you say, oh, well, this is my tournament and I'm going to make all swamps tap for 2 additional mana, like, that's not how we should use our judging abilities.
No.
But if you say, I think that this is the best fix for this situation, then that's one of those.
And that's what judges do. That's like judgment. So great question from the chat.
Definitely. And so,
all right.
What's our next one?
Yeah, our next one after like triggered abilities is like looking at extra cards, or like the equivalent that you would have of looking at extra cards. So if someone sees a card in their library that they shouldn't have seen, you shuffle that card back in. Now, you want to be smart about this, because if someone, like, for example, scries a card to the bottom, or they play like an Ancient Stirrings and they know cards on the bottom for some reason like that, then you aren't going to just shuffle those in with it, because we know where those cards are supposed to be. So like hypothetically, if I scry something to the bottom, it should stay on the bottom. If I put 4 cards on the bottom with Ancient Stirrings, those 4 cards should stay on the bottom. So you shuffle the unknown part of the library, and so that's like a pretty straightforward one. It's probably not going to be that controversial.
Yeah, and like David mentioned, right now a lot of events you might see running include surveilling.
Is that a mechanic?
That is a mechanic. So if a player knows that they've surveilled that card to the top and they know it's supposed to be there, that's a pretty important thing to be aware of.
Yeah, same with scrying, of course. But yeah, if you like have cards on the top of your library that you know, and you look at extra cards that are on the top of your library, then there's no reason to have them shuffle in. Just be like, in a serious tournament, you would be allowed to look at that card once you put it back down there. So
but you do know it. So
yeah,
great. So our next one from the document is that a player accidentally draws more cards than he or she is supposed to.
Yeah, right.
So this one in competitive is referred to as hidden card error.
Or mulligan procedure. Right?
Or mulligan procedure error. It includes both of those at regular. So the way you fix this is actually pretty... I prefer it because it seems less scary.
Yeah,
so what you do is you identify however many cards are extra. If they accidentally grabbed 1 extra, if they accidentally grabbed 3 extra, you want to make sure and ask that. And randomly, you take X amount of cards, where X is the appropriate number extra, and you put them on top of the library. If they have drawn them during the game, you put them back on top. And the philosophy, this may seem strange. You might say, hey, why do I not shuffle them in? Well, the theory is that the player knowing 1 extra card in their library is not, in the end of things, going to be super detrimental to the game state. And I agree that this sounds kind of strange.
Yeah, but think about the alternative, which is like a card that the player had in their hand just like going away.
Yeah.
Like they could have been planning their next like couple of turns ahead,
and now all
given
of a sudden,
that card is in their hand. And
yeah,
now
all of a
it's
sudden
not
it's gone.
anymore. So yeah, like the shuffling it away is actually going to do more damage to the game state in all likelihood than just letting them know what the top card or top couple cards maybe even would be.
Yeah, so this is designed to protect the player who makes a mistake. And that's basically one of the huge points of regular rules enforcement level, is that the mistake gets treated as a mistake. You fix it to the best of your abilities to make sure that the game stays as close to what it could be. However, if this extra card is drawn during mulligan procedures, instead you do shuffle that library in. Because the player hasn't, mapped out their next few turns based on the cards that are in their hand, it's okay to shuffle those cards in because the deck is randomized. Once they have that opening hand, until they have scryed or drawn or whatever, that deck is completely randomized, and leaving those cards on top provides an extra benefit. If they have 7 cards in hand and they get an additional scry 1, that seems pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So if they don't know the contents of their deck, yes, just go ahead and shuffle during the mulligan.
Yep. All right. So the next one down would be a game rule violation, or like the equivalent of a game rule violation. So a player makes an in-game error not mentioned above, and so pretty much there's 2 choices that you can choose between here. One of them is to leave the game state as is. The other was to back up to before the error happened, and then proceed, fix the error, and then proceed from there. So you basically there isn't like a rule that says, okay, in this case, you're supposed to back up, and in this case, you're supposed to leave the game state as. So what you're doing is you're using your judgment, and remember, what your goal is to make it so that the game state that you end up with is as close as possible to the game state that you would have had if there was no mistake, right? So one of the examples that I use all the time is like, for example, like we've got some card with a wacky mana card, like Supreme Verdict. You play the Supreme Verdict, and it turns out that after the Supreme Verdict resolves, you talk to the players, and it's like, well, looks like their lands that they had was like 1 plains and 3 island. So, they're playing the Cryptic Command, but they can't play the Supreme Verdict because you need double white it. So what do you do? There's 2 choices, and the choices is to leave the game state as is, or to rewind to before the Supreme Verdict was cast. And what your correct answer would be is very, very much dependent on game state factors. So, for example, if you just caught it just now, and right after the players put the stuff in the graveyard, they're like, hey, wait, Judge, it seems to me like this guy cast the Supreme Verdict and they didn't have the right mana to be able to do that. So if you catch it right away, then that's great, and it's a pretty clear cut, back up to before the game state happened. But, okay, maybe next level for this would be, okay, it's like a couple of turns down the road, and, I've played some creatures, my opponent's played some creatures, and what do we do now? And so we don't want to back up. It's obvious because like we've done a bunch of stuff in the game and we can't back it all up without severely damaging what each player's plan is by revealing what their opponent did. So that's a pretty clear case where we wouldn't back up. But there's some other considerations that make it kind of gray. Like, for example, I play that card. What's it called? The like creatures you control gain indestructible, like Heroic Intervention.
Yeah, expert and indestructible.
Right. So like let's say I play the Supreme Verdict for the wrong mana, and my opponent responds with Heroic Intervention, and then after they play the Heroic Intervention, I'm like, oh wait, crap, I like didn't have the right mana to cast this thing. So now, I would say like you probably wouldn't back up in this situation, because what's going to happen is now that Supreme Verdict player knows that the opponent has a Heroic Intervention, he's going to play completely differently, because he's going to try and wait to play his Supreme Verdict in a time when the guy is like tapped out of being able to play Heroic Intervention, so he'll be able to actually get the effect out of his card. So in that case, I would like leave the game state as is. If it were 2 turns had gone by but nothing had happened except for draw steps and passing, that's kind of tough. That one is actually, I don't know, what would you do? Yeah, see it's harder because on the one hand it's a good easy backup to do because there hasn't been really anything that happened in the game. But on the other hand, maybe the fact that they haven't played anything is going to give, one player is going to take some information away from the fact that the other guy doesn't have any creatures out yet.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like, well, okay, that means that I can value this Path to Exile a little bit lower because I know that he probably doesn't have any more creatures after the first one that he plays.
Yeah. Or maybe the player drew 2 pump spells.
Yeah.
That could have affected the creatures they should have had.
Yeah.
But now they don't.
Or maybe the player like has some counter spells in his hand and he's like, well, okay, I have counter spells and removal spells, so I'm going to use these counter spells. I'm going to save them. I'm not going to waste them on a creature spell that he plays because I know that he doesn't have very many creature spells. So I want to make sure that the counter spells and the removal spells are alive. So yeah, all that kind of stuff can go into your decision of whether to back up or to leave it as is. And as we said before, it can be kind of complicated, but at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is remember one thing, which is I want to make this game state as close as possible as what the game state would have been if there was no error. And obviously you're not going to be able to get exactly right on because there was an error, but we're going to try and undo as much of the damage that error did as possible. Any questions from the chat on this? This is probably like the most interesting and the most in-depth kind of part of the presentation.
One thing I do want to point out here while you're typing up any questions is to be wary of quote-unquote partial fixes.
Yeah.
Or anything that seems like it could be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in this case with Supreme Verdict, don't just say, oh, well, it's 2 turns, we'll just go ahead and put the creatures back on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to back up to the point, if you think that that's okay and you think that's appropriate, think about everything you need to take care of.
Right.
If we move through 2 draw steps, we need 2 cards on top of the library. If we move through combat, we need to know which creatures were tapped and which creatures were untapped. If we moved back to the point where the Supreme Verdict is on the stack or not on the stack, then we need those lands untapped. Like, there are plenty of decisions that make it much harder than just saying, okay, creatures go back.
All right. So the last one, a player has illegal, insufficient, or another player's cards in their deck, and this is one of those feel bad ones in competitive REL, because usually stuff like this is going to be a game loss, but in regular REL it's not going to be a game loss. You basically I'll summarize it in one sentence, which is to fix the problem, and sometimes what the problem is a little bit more complicated. Sometimes fixing the problem is easy, right? You've got 61 cards in your deck. Okay, no problem at all. Okay, let's say we have 16 cards in the sideboard. Okay, one of them's got to go. All right, which one's going to go? All right, sometimes it's 59 cards in your deck. Okay, you got 59 cards in there. You got to add one more. The one more is a basic land. Basic lands meaning island, swamp, mountain, forest, and plains. And not meaning wastes or snow-covered basic lands. That would be kind of wacky. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. You're playing. This was one that actually came up last weekend. I had a player who was playing like Ether Revolt and Kaladesh cards.
Okay.
So as it turns out, did you know that standard rotates?
Yeah, it did.
And so that's the negative. That's the negative part of the release weekend phenomenon. Because so this poor player had to take. I think it ended up all told being like 13 cards out of their standard deck that was rotated out of standard.
Oh boy.
I believe we ended up refunding that person's entry fee and having them just go into a different event afterwards. So that was kind of a happy year ending. But yeah, like I mean they're not.
You do still give the penalty.
We had another one that was they had Stomping Ground.
Okay.
In their standard deck.
Which hasn't been put in yet.
Now, Stomping Ground is not in standard yet, folks. I know you're excited for that one, but turns out only 5 of the guilds actually had their Shocklands put in standard.
Smooth.
So yeah, that guy was he said he felt kind of dumb about that. So I guess. But so in those cases, it's pretty straightforward. Also, you take the cards that are not legal to play in the format out, and you put basic lands in.
Yeah, and you find that. At larger events, at more competitive events, people are going to be taking very good care of their cards. They're probably going to have them sleeved or double sleeved. Yeah. But maybe at the store at a draft, you have a bunch of players with unsleeved cards.
Yeah.
I play Luminous Bonds on your creature. I'm just going to put it on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's super easy in those situations to just scoop up the cards at the end and not even think about it. And now all of a sudden, I have your card in my deck.
Card in your deck. Yeah.
So what's important to know is, okay, we found this extra card in your deck. You know it's not yours. Whose is it?
Right.
Whose deck is this supposed to be in? So that's something else to consider when you're taking care of that, is if you have an extra card in this person's deck, that means someone else
don't throw it in the trash
does
can.
not have that card.
Yeah.
So that covers all of our common issues at Regular. So pretty much anything that you find that involves rules associated with the game is going to end up in those.
Yeah. So any questions on any of those, go ahead and put them in the chat. Once more, we'll go through them all. Forgetting about triggered abilities, seeing cards that they shouldn't have been able to see, accidentally drawing more cards than you're supposed to be able to draw, making an in-game error that we're doing something that's against the rules in the game, and having illegal, insufficient, or other cards from another person's deck in your own deck. And those are like the most, and we call them the common issues in judging at Regular REL, because that is a common issue.
So next we move on to the unwanted behaviors.
We're just going to like gloss through these pretty quick, because like they're all pretty similar. And there's a couple of like interesting stuff that I'll point out. But slow play, taking too long to make a decision. Inadequate shuffling, pretty much speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Asking for or providing strategic advice during a game or a match or a draft, and tardiness. These are the 4 generally unwanted behaviors, and obviously it's pretty easy to see how those could be a little bit more disruptive to an event than what we were talking about earlier. And so basically, the way you handle any of these is to have a serious talk with the person and be like, hey, we need you to turn this around. There are some people who the slow play one is, I think, the issue that I've seen the most is like people have on a couple of different occasions had talks with me. They're like, Dave, we've got this local player and he just plays so slow, and everyone hates playing against him because it's like you're going to time, everybody agrees that he's playing slower than is normal. I'm like, okay, so the question that people always do is like, what should we do with these people? And realistically, the only thing that you can do is like you sit them down and you say like, hey, bro, we've got a problem with you playing too slow, and a lot of people have said it, and we need you to play faster. And it's a process. Don't expect like an overnight change. And that's true for any of these. The asking for advice, that's probably something you can fix with one talking to, because a lot of the time people are going to be like, oh, I didn't even realize that you weren't supposed to like talk to my friend about this.
Especially because with pre-releases,
Oh, yeah.
the little card says that it's okay to ask for advice when building. So you might see that and you might say, oh, cool, I can ask people for help, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and then I lean over to my friend who's playing next to me and I say, hey, David, should I use this on his creature or...
Nah, bro, you want to save that for a higher value target.
Yeah, so that could provide a little bit of confusion there. But
Yeah. But like that's something you can like change in one talking to. For slow play, that's generally that's a process, because people are playing too slow, and it's like a habit kind of a thing. Tardiness, that's fine. Insufficient shuffling, you can probably fix that with like one talking to.
Yeah, and what's nice about the Regular rules environment is, with the exception of something like a Grand Prix or an SCG where you have side events, a lot of these are going to take place in your store. A lot of stores see people coming back week after week.
And so you can work on that.
So if that player has a reputation for playing slow, that's a lot easier to take care of, because you know them.
Yeah.
They know you. And they're going
not
to
some
listen
scary authority figure who's like going to interact with them once and then never talk to them again.
Yeah. So one thing that the document does say is that if a player has multiple cases where they keep showing that this is a problem, it is okay and backed by policy that you can provide a game loss for something like this. If you say, hey, Dave, this is 3 weeks in a row that we've had people saying that you're playing slow, and 3 times that I've told you, the next time that I see you playing slow, I'm going to give you a game loss. Now, don't tell the opponent this, of course.
Yeah.
Don't say, hey, opponent, if he's playing slow, like, I'm going to give him a game loss. Just let me know. That's fine. But maybe watch that player. If you're not doing anything, if you're not at the counter dealing with customers, or if you're not putting stuff into work, maybe go hang out by that player. Make sure that what they're doing is okay. And then obviously if that becomes a greater issue, if they after this they're getting game loss and game loss and game loss and game loss because of what they're doing, that's probably time to talk to the store owner.
Yeah.
Because if this player,
I would probably talk to him the first time, honestly. Like,
well, yes, definitely get the store owner, the tournament organizer involved. But by that point, just say, hey, this person just does not seem good for these events. They've racked up multiple game losses at regular.
So that, well, like, even before you give them a game loss, you can, because the best way to do it, to address those kind of behaviors would be non-confrontationally. So the best way to do it, in my opinion, would be to talk to the store owner and be like, okay, store owner, there's been a lot of, like, complaints I've heard from players about, like, player X, and he's taking too long of a time playing these matches. So what would you feel about, having a talk with this guy? And, if the store owner wants to intervene, then that's great. If the people, if the people of the store have that big of an issue with him, then that means that it could be bad for their business. So they might want to be aware of that. All kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can also rationalize that to store owners. If they say, oh, well, I don't want to lose out on this player because they pay money, like, yes, they do, but you also have 7 other people in the draft that paid money, and now their experience is significantly lowered because of this one person. Sometimes you have to put things into dollars.
Yeah.
And that's not anything bad. Making the tournament organizer understand the issue is great.
Yeah.
Do it. And if you have to bring up some other different context, like, that's fine. Get them to understand the problem, because ultimately you're probably the one that's going to have to deal with it.
Sure.
So those cover all of our generally unwanted behaviors.
Now it's some serious.
The last thing we get to are serious problems. These are the types of things that you will disqualify players from. And depending on the disqualification, they may also be escorted out of the store.
Oh, yeah.
So these serious problems include things like being aggressive, being harassing to other players, being violent, throwing cards, slamming tables, flipping tables, stealing, also breaking rules, cheating, or determining the outcome by rolling dice or flipping cards or looking at the top card and you seeing which one's has a higher CMC. There are so many different things that fall into this category that I'm not going to go over all of them, but these are the big problems. These are ones that you would disqualify a player from at competitive. These are ones you disqualify a player for at regular. So being aware of these problems and knowing when they happen is important.
Yeah.
So at regular, we say things like, oh, well, if they drew an extra card, that's fine. We just fix it. You still need to be aware of whether or not these players are cheating. At regular, a lot of times it's just going to be a mistake because ultimately, are they willing to risk cheating for a pack of cards? Unfortunately, sometimes the answer is yes. So maybe just asking a few questions or knowing who the players are. If I see David's at a tournament and I say, hey, David, you drew an extra card and you didn't call a judge and I think you knew.
Yeah, that's...
I have higher expectations from David than I do from some of the players at my store.
Yeah.
So
let's say I probably know what you're supposed to and not supposed to be able to do.
Hey, David, I noticed that this pack you opened in a Guilds of Ravnica draft has 3 rares in it.
Yeah.
And you didn't call a judge. I think you might have put one in.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we were going the other way. I thought I took an extra rare out because I wanted to have the foil Assassin's Trophy and the normal one.
But you're drafting Boros.
Yeah, well, no. I was like,
I
want the foil Assassin's Trophy, but I also wanted the playable in my deck. Yeah, that's another possibility.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, those are all the things that you would be disqualifying a person for. Now, of course, there is some resources available to you if you're going to disqualify someone this way. First thing you would do is you would talk to the store owner because they're going to want to be in the loop about that. Be sure you tell them that it is mandatory that you DQ them per their Wizards Play Network agreement. That is, there are certain things that players are not allowed to do at Magic tournaments that are sanctioned. And those things that Dalton and I talked about just now are things that you're not allowed to do. Another thing that you can do is you're going to have to actually physically DQ the person. So that's going to involve telling them that they're DQ'd, and then there's also some other steps that you have to do. So if you go to blogs.magicjudges.org/o/disqualification-process, then that link will be in the description, by the way. Those steps are listed for you here. So there's some links to some documents. You have to make sure the players fill out some forms. You have to fill out a form, and then you have to submit it. There's a thing on Judge Apps where you can submit those types of reports, and that is the steps to DQing a person. So the basic, broad strokes overview is you're going to get their statement. You're going to write a statement, and both of those statements is basically my telling of what happened and why I got I DQ'd the person / what the judge told me I was getting DQ'd for. And that is what you do. You and the player both fill those out, and then there's a thing on Judge Apps where you can submit those, and then you submit those. And you're also going to need some other information from the tournament. I think you need the sanctioning number for the thing, and you should probably get the player's name and DCI number out of the registered player thing on Word. So that is like the broad strokes. We probably should do like a whole episode. At some point, we probably will do a whole episode about disqualifications, because that's a broad and deep topic by itself.
Yes. One of the things that does come up with serious problems sometimes is that store owners don't want to disqualify their players.
Yep.
It could be someone who goes to their store every week and, they just really had to go today.
Yep.
And they were trying to split prizes and they said the wrong thing and now it's a disqualification.
Aww.
It happens. But there is absolutely no way around it. We are bound by policy to disqualify these players. Disqualifying a player does not mean they have to be removed from the venue.
It doesn't mean they're going to get banned.
It doesn't mean they're going to get banned. It doesn't mean they can't
play Magic ever
again.
Yeah.
It may not even mean they can't play Magic tomorrow.
Well, I mean, it certainly won't, because the DCI isn't going to process their case that fast.
Yeah, so if they got disqualified from their midnight pre-release, they can show up at 8 a.m. and play in the next one.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine, as long as they learned. Now, there will be a follow-up.
As long as the store isn't banning them.
Yes. Yeah, so there will be a follow-up. It does take time, so those will take anywhere, I want to say it's about a month, 2 months.
Between 1 to 2 months is usually what the turnaround time is.
I think they look at them at the end of every month.
Yeah.
So that's something for players to be aware of. They are taken out of that event, but as long as they're not, throwing punches and going crazy, then the store owner doesn't have to kick them out.
Well, I mean, the store owner can do whatever.
The store owner never
want.
has to kick them out. So there is some wiggle room as far as that goes. Like, that's something you could bring up to a tournament organizer. Say that, like, yes, they have to be disqualified. Yes, they have to be out of this event. No, that doesn't mean I'm kicking them out of your store. No, that doesn't mean that they can't buy stuff. No, that doesn't mean that they can't show up later. You just have to remove them from that event. And usually if you go over everything there, then the store owner will hopefully understand that. And as David mentioned, it is part of their agreement. In order to be a registered venue.
WPN store, you have to follow certain rules, and that's one of the rules. Is if you do stuff on this list, if you have players who do that stuff, you have to DQ those players.
Yeah. I've had...
that one comes straight from the Wizards lawyers.
David and I know a judge who one time had a store refuse to disqualify a player.
Oh, yeah.
They mentioned that it's against policy that they have to do it, and so the judge refused to work for the store again.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, the judge was standing up for the program and the policy, and they're not going to get bullied around by a store owner.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're a store owner and you're going to try and tell your judge, what to do, what do you need a judge for, right? Like, that's kind of counterproductive, right?
So knowing what to point to, and this judge did. The judge knew exactly what the policy said and exactly what the Wizards Play Network guidelines are.
Yeah.
They knew that they weren't going to do something against the rules. They weren't going to risk their judgeship, their judgehood for this store owner. What do you call it? Your judge status, I guess?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I'm going to start calling it judgehood from now on, though. That's kind of cool.
Perfect. So they weren't going to risk their judgehood for this store owner, and you shouldn't either. So that covers everything Took a long time.
I mean, like, it took about the same amount of time that it usually does. We got some example questions, though. I'm going to go through some of these, some of my, like, favorite ones here, though. This is some of my favorites. Okay, so step number one, let's say I am going to play Jason Mind Sculptor because it's modern, and modern is an awesome format, and now you can play those. So that's great. Yeah, well, usually you play both. Why choose? And my opponent's like, okay, Dave, how much mana you got up? And I'm like, I got 4 mana left open. Right? So Dalton's like, okay, sucker, we are going to Logic Knot for 4.
Perfect.
And so then I take my basic planes out from underneath my stack of 4 islands and tap all 5, right? Because you Logic Knotted for 5, right? Because that would be the thing that makes sense. So yeah, tap all 5, and I'm like, sucker, I got you. I actually had 5 mana up, so I'm going to pay the 5. Gotcha.
That feels bad.
Gotcha.
No, so at Regular, we've done a broadcast in the past about classes of information.
Yes.
Since we've done that, they've added one, which is status information. So maybe we'll do a recap later.
Yeah, maybe.
At status information and free information are accessible to everyone throughout the game. At competitive rules enforcement, you also have derived information and private. There was a little blurb there in the document that says that at regular rules enforcement level, derived is free.
Yes.
So
it is not legal for me to make false statements about the number of mana that I have up.
Yeah.
Which is what I did. And so that was not a legit bluff that I made. That was a non-legit bluff. So therefore, my opponent should be allowed to take back the Logic Knot and recast it for the appropriate amount.
Yeah. And even at regular rules enforcement level, you can't mislead. So David couldn't say, well, you count it. That would be fine at
competitive REL, sure.
At competitive,
at a competitive REL, it's still like, no one's going to do that.
Yeah.
Just be like, okay.
Exactly. Now, if David's bluff was, I have 4, and I'm going to exile this Simian Spirit Guide.
Yeah, no, that's a real one. Like,
that's a good one. Because that involves hidden private information.
Right.
But if they have those lands and the opponent, especially if the opponent asks, then that's not okay. Talk to that player.
Yep. Okay. So after he Logic Knots my Jace, he
I don't like it. I want to get rid of it.
Yeah. So
forever.
Therefore, he plays Surgical Extraction. Right. Surgical my Jace, and we're gonna get to Jace. So he's searching through. He finds one.
Get the one in your graveyard. I'm gonna get the one in your deck.
I
got the 3rd one. Oh. You only played 2?
Yeah, I only played 2.
I didn't see a 3rd one.
Yeah,
it was a Teferi, my bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I only played 3. Who knows? Yeah, but for the purposes of this question, you're searching through my deck. You find one in my deck, and you find one in my graveyard, of course. And after you find the one in my deck, I'm like, I only play 2.
Okay, cool.
So then he shovel, then he gives it back to me, and then I shovel. And then like a few turns later, I play a Jace. And I'm like, haha.
Oh boy.
I actually played 2 Jaces.
But David, you said you only play 2.
Yeah, I bluffed.
Judge. Yeah.
Sucker. So, I got him.
So that's a good bluff.
Yeah, that's a legit
fine.
Bluff.
Is it
not particularly sporting?
No. Is it unsporting? No. So with hidden information, even though I can legally search the library right now, even though I can see it and his hand and his graveyard, it is still the library and the hand hidden information.
Yeah.
Now, David can't, hide his hand under his cards and act like he doesn't have one. Yeah. So if that Jace was hidden in his hand, that would not be okay.
Yeah.
But if I just didn't look because I
if you took my word for him and, that's too bad.
Then I played myself.
That's a bad play. So is that a particularly sporting bluff? No. Is it a legal bluff? Yes. Okay.
That can also be... So obviously, I would never rule against that.
Yeah.
But
because legally, that's a legal play.
Yes, but depending on the mood your store sets, you might want to talk to the player and
say,
the store owner
might want to talk to the
player. Just say, hey, that was fine. What you did was legal, but our store likes to be more casual. We like to have fun, and we'd prefer if our players were honest with each other. Yeah, and that's okay.
Do stuff like that. Okay, so this is one of my, this is another really great question. Okay, so I'm playing this event, and I'm playing against Dalton. Now, Dalton has this enchantment that's really kind of a lame a lamer card for me. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe like a warmth or
Mirari's
something.
Wake.
Yeah, no, this isn't some stupid format. This is like a real, yeah. So he has a warmth. Let's say, or a cop red. Ooh, yeah, cop red would be a good one, right? Circle of Protection red. So he has Circle of Protection red. I want to kill his Circle of Protection red.
Oh no.
So okay, fortunately for me, I have this card.
Oh, Sukatairo Tuk Tuk.
Sukatairo Tuk Tuk. And with this card, I play this card.
Hey David, so I'm a little new to Magic.
Oh yeah,
I can't read that.
Oh, you don't read Portuguese?
I don't read Portuguese.
Well, you
what
don't know bulk uncommons from several years ago?
From what is that? Zendikar?
World Wake. Yeah, it's from.
When was World Wake a set?
Well, it was back when Jace was good.
Oh, okay.
It was really good.
Well, David, what's it do?
Well, what it does is when it enters the battlefield, actually any goblin I control, whenever any goblin I control enters the battlefield, I get to destroy target enchantment, and it does 1 damage to target player for each goblin I control.
Wow, that seems
to
pretty
the
good.
enchantment's controller. Sorry, yeah.
That seems pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, it's pretty good here. It's bailing me out of this tough
I guess
jam.
I lose my...
Yeah, sorry about that, cop red.
I guess I lose my cop red. How many goblins do you have?
Well, it's just the only one. This is
okay, so I'll only take 1?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, all right. So, those of you who know what this card does might have noticed some inconsistencies, and those of you who speak Portuguese maybe might have noticed those inconsistencies. But for the rest of us, here's what this card actually does in English. Whenever it enters the battlefield, first of all, it's not goblins, it's allies, and then also it destroys artifacts. Now, I would be willing to believe that a person who had a Tuk Tuk Scrapper could like confuse the fact that it dealt damage for the number of allies versus goblins,
or converted mana cost.
Yeah, I would be willing to believe that a person might think that it was like any goblin entering the battlefield rather than any ally. That's possible. Maybe not, maybe, but having it destroy enchantments is certainly something that they would have known. So like
it's red.
Both of those things would have raised a red flag to me. So we're gonna talk to Tuk Tuk Scrapper player away from the table, and we're gonna see what they have to say for themselves. It's like
hey David.
Yeah?
So I'm a judge now.
Okay.
And I noticed during that match you had out your Tuk Tuk Scrapper.
You mean my
your sweet Portuguese one.
Yeah.
Is your whole deck Portuguese?
No, but I went to Brazil and I bought these at GP Sao Paulo.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
well, yeah, that seems pretty cool.
Do you speak Portuguese?
I do.
I do speak Portuguese.
You do?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. From when I learned, so I could go to Brazil.
So Tuk Tuk Scrapper, it's an ally, right? So it deals damage.
Oh, aliado.
Equal number of allies.
Oh, right? Yeah. Oh, is it allies? I was thinking it was goblins.
Yeah. And then I can't remember, what does it destroy again?
Oh, it destroys artifacts, yeah.
Yeah, so during that game, you had it blow up an enchantment.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm real sorry about that, but, I was, in a super bad spot that game, and I was losing next turn unless I, had something good happen to my side.
Yeah, so, David, I'm going to take you to Dairy Queen.
Aw.
And I'm not even going to buy you anything.
Should have lied about that one, too, I guess.
Yeah, so if the player knows that what they've done is wrong, then that is cheating.
Okay, so cheating requires 3 things.
Yes.
First of all, you have to do something
in this
wrong.
Case.
So that
a player has to do something wrong.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be you.
Yeah, that's true. There has to be some breaking of a rule. The person who broke the rule has to have done that intentionally, and they have to have known that it was against the rule. So in this case, all 3 of those things are happening. I intentionally lied about what my card did because I wanted to win the game. And unfortunately, you are not allowed to lie about what your cards do. That is free information. You would be hard-pressed to find someone who believed that it was legal for them to lie about what their cards did. And so, as a result, the situation here is that I cheated, and me and my Sukaterio are going away for a while.
I believe
you're probably getting banned for this one, by the way.
I believe the 3 are actually that a player knows a rule is being broken.
Yes. Well,
a rule is broken, and a player stands to gain advantage from it.
Yes.
So in this case,
in judging at REL document, we will quote the exact text.
Cool.
Intentionally and knowingly breaking or letting an opponent break game rules or tournament rules or lying.
Okay, cool. So yeah, In regular, it's different.
Bluffing is allowed, but lying is not.
Yes. So in this case, it could be that I knew what it did and David didn't.
Yes.
And he said, "Oh, I think it blows up enchantments." And I'm like, "Yep, cool, it does, because I don't have any."
Yeah.
If that's the case, then even though it's David's card, even though David should know what cards do in his deck, I still broke the rule. I still knew I was breaking a rule.
Yeah.
And I am cheating.
Or for example, like let's say I like attack with a lifelink creature, and Dalton knows that my creature has lifelink and that I should gain some life. But Dalton knows that if I gain some life, that would be bad for him, so he doesn't tell me. That's also cheating. You saw me breaking a rule by not gaining life when I was supposed to gain life, and didn't say anything, and so that is also a thing that we would consider to be cheating.
Yeah.
All right, so there's one last one that I wanted to talk about, and
Okay, sweet,
we are
'cause
kind of
were
going a little
over
over time, but like this is a sweet example.
Yeah,
so.
thank you for joining us, everyone.
Okay, so this is the situation here. I have two. Dalton has two Archangel of Thunes.
Great.
And he's
It's a good
attacking
position
me.
to be
He's
in.
attacking me with both of them, and I don't have any fire, so I let the damage through. And Dalton puts 0 +1/+1 counters on his, or Dalton puts 2 +1/+1 counters on his creatures.
Yeah,
on all
because
his
each one
creatures.
triggers.
Yep, each one triggers, and he gains the 6 life. And then I go to my turn, and I like do some stuff. And then some judge is like, "Hey, Dave, I heard you were pretty knowledgeable about the rules." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." "Dave, did you know that you actually get 4 counters on all your creatures due to the fact that triggered abilities that say when you gain life mean whenever any source causes you to gain life, and due to the fact that both Archangel of Thunes attacked, he gained life from 2 sources, which means each one triggers for
Twice.
both of those sources, so you get 4 total triggers." So yes, I in fact did know that, but I was really uncool with Dalton getting 4 counters when he only remembered 2 of those triggers. So I decided that my chances of winning the game would be higher if he did not have access to those counters. So I did not say anything. What do you think, Dalton? Is that legit or not legit?
I'm sad.
Yeah?
Because I only put 2 counters on.
Probably
I
should have put 4. Should have put 4.
But I don't have a case to the judge.
No problems have happened in this game.
Yeah.
It was completely legal for me to, and the reason for that is because unlike gaining the life, which is a thing that happens in the game regardless of anything, with the putting the +1/+1 counters on, that is a triggered ability, and if you do not remember your triggered abilities, even at regular REL, it is up to the opponent to decide whether they want to point these out or not, and it is completely within my rights to be like, "Hey, guess Dalton missed that trigger. Pretty good for me that he missed that trigger. So we are going to let that one go." And so that is a legal thing that you can do. If you are a judge, you may or may not intervene. Either one is supported by policy.
That's all going to depend on the store.
Yeah, and your players.
So if I see that these 2 players are both very new and that, they both are learning the game, maybe they came to the
Or if
the
your
learn
store
to
is
play.
catering for a crowd that
Yeah.
is more laid back and casual and is,
Then I go, "Hey, you actually get 2 triggers from each, so you're going to get 4.
yeah.
And the players will go, "Okay, thanks, whatever."
Yeah.
But if I see that Dave's at the table, I know that Dave's a very competitive player. Dave is, you can go look him up on YouTube. He's been on the SCG feature match.
I've lost all my feature matches.
I know that if Dave is not pointing it out, it's because Dave does not want it stated. And I'm not going to go assist that player because I know that the store Dave is at is probably going to be one that's a little more
my store is one of
competitive.
the more competitive. They're basically everybody at my store plays like a tier 1 deck.
Yeah,
for the most
so
part.
because of that, I know that store's setting is going to be a lot more competitive. Even if they're not running at competitive rules enforcement, they may prefer to play in that fashion. So all seems good to me.
Yep. All right. So thank you so much to everybody for joining us tonight. We hope you had an awesome time learning about judging at regular rules enforcement level. If you have any additional questions, go ahead and stay online. We'll be in the chat and we'll be able to answer those. But until next time, this is Dave and Dalton saying good night. Have a nice evening.
And remember your triggers.